Today we have Justin Inman, who is the founder and CEO of Ambrose AI.
I spent nearly a decade at Google during the last kind of large transformational shift that happened in the advertising and marketing world, covering off a lot of Fortune 500 companies, everyone from L'Oreal to Coca-Cola to Sony.
What did you learn from that? And, how have these discovery systems changed over a period of time?
The digital transformation and the shift to programmatic. And I saw kind of how quickly that shift happened. I think that this new kind of era that we're entering into, the AI era, especially next year, it's going to be about 10 times faster than what that shift was.
As people who are building in this space, we see companies trying to appear in those AI searches that are happening on ChatGPT and Claude.
We're really seeing that discoverability, it really starts with an AI, is really kind of now the foundational layer for how we operate. When I really knew it was going to be big is when my mom was using it.
When we say that AI is now the new frontier or new front door for discovery, what does it actually mean?
45 to 50% of moviegoers now go to ChatGPT or Gemini or an LLM for movie information and discovery. We decided to predict box office revenue. And so we did it for 4 titles over 3 weekends. The last 2 were Wicked for Good and Zootopia 2. And across those 4 titles, we saw anywhere from a 90 to 98% accuracy. And for a couple of those titles, we were 2x more accurate than traditional tracking metrics.
Any brand or brand person listening to this, how should they prepare for this whole sort of AI answers word? And what would you tell them to do?
It is now the time is to up your game, up your chops, understand kind of what the next iteration of measurement is going to look like. And 2026 is going to happen.
I feel like sometimes brands can get overlooked or misrepresented inside the AI responses.
All the time.
Is it very different from the Google search word? And secondly, how should brands think about it then? Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Build AI podcast. Today, we have Justin Inman, who is the founder and CEO of Ambrose AI. Welcome to the pod, Justin.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. I think it might be a great place to start if we can know a little bit about your journey and how you got to this place where you started Ambrose AI and a little bit about the company as well.
Sure. So my name's Justin Inman. I'm the founder and CEO of Emberos. I spent nearly a decade at Google during the last kind of large transformational shift that happened in the advertising and marketing world, which was the digital transformation and the shift to programmatic. At Google, spent, like I said, nearly a decade on the enterprise sales teams, covering off a lot of Fortune 500 companies, everyone from L'Oreal to Coca-Cola to Sony. And I saw kind of how quickly that shift happened. I think that this new kind of era that we're entering into, the AI era, especially next year, it's going to be about 10 times faster than what that shift was. And so I saw a massive opportunity to build a company to kind of help brands understand how much AI visibility for their brand matters. So I built Emberos, which is the operating system for AI visibility. And we help brands detect, fix, and prove lift across all AI assistants and LLMs.
Right. And that is so much required. Like, as people who are building in this space, we see companies trying to appear in those AI searches that are happening on ChatGPT and Claude. So I'm really looking forward to learning more about this. But maybe based on where you have spent time so far, and watching SEO evolve early in your career, what did you learn from that? And, how have these discovery systems changed over a period of time?
Yeah. I think for me, this isn't going away anytime soon. I think consumers are operating differently, right? When social came, search was still a foundational layer, and social is still a very much a foundational layer as well. It's just a new system that marketers and advertisers need to be thinking about, because if they're not thinking about it, they're really going to be locked out of the conversation next year and the years upcoming. For us, as we go through kind of deeper experiments within our own systems, like we're really seeing that discoverability really starts with an AI. And so consumers go to search for different reasons, but really for discoverability specifically, it's now starting with an AI. And so That's kind of a pattern that we're seeing, and we're really kind of putting a stake in the ground and saying AI visibility is now kind of the new leading indicator.
Right. And when did this all start? Like, we know that ChatGPT got launched in November of 2022. When did you start noticing that AI answers like will become the next big thing?
I mean, for me, it was actually with my own personal usage. Like, I'm sure most of your listeners think about your usage today on ChatGPT or Gemini or whichever LLM you use. Think about your usage today versus 3 months ago versus 6 months ago versus a year ago. You know, what used to be kind of a cool party trick where you would go to search for something or create an image is really kind of now the foundational layer for how we operate. And it really is kind of becoming an AI assistant for me in my everyday life, asking it complex questions and multi-step kind of prompts. And frankly, to be super transparent, like when I really knew it was going to be big is when my mom was using it. I was like, if she's using it for ChatGPT and research, then I know this is going to be much bigger than I can even imagine.
I totally sort of relate with that. My wife is like a dietitian and nutritionist, and most of the tech stuff I've done over the last 20 years, she was least bothered. And then I saw her using ChatGPT from very early on, like almost like mid last year. It
Yep.
was insane.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah,
It's like if the like least tech advanced person in your life is using it, then you know we're kind of in for this like
yeah.
foundational shift that's definitely going to happen next year.
Right. But just sort of going into this visibility area a little bit more, that when we say that AI is now the new frontier or new front door for discovery, what does it actually mean? Like, if you can go into a tad more detail, like what are the, like when we are searching on ChatGPT or Claude, what are the sources they go into and what happens in the background?
You know, like I can give you a couple stats. You know, for movies in the entertainment industry, it's anywhere from like 45 to 50% of moviegoers now go to ChatGPT or Gemini or an LLM for movie information and discovery. 1 in 5 use an LLM assistant for all kind of entertainment discoverability, which is huge. And for our data, we actually saw it was around like 7 to 12% of total prompts were movie related. Like massive, massive opportunity for the entertainment industry. And that's just one industry, right? Like people's behaviors are now going to these systems to understand product recommendations that fit to your specific needs. Something that, search never really was able to get there and offer. And I think that now with these customized responses, people trust it more, right? And they feel like this is a catered response to their own personal desires and needs to whatever topic they want to ask about. And so that's what I mean about discoverability being kind of the new front door.
Right. But Justin, as I've also seen that as opposed to Google search, which probably used to look at like thousands of pages and rank them, I think what I've seen in typically when I search on ChatGPT, that it would have looked at, or it would actually sort of base the answer on like 10 or 15 sources. And I don't know if I'm right or wrong in that, but basically I feel like sometimes brands can get overlooked or misrepresented inside the AI responses.
All the time.
Right. So, like two things. One, is it very different from the Google search word? And secondly, how should brands think about it then?
So, I think if you have a good SEO strategy, you will most likely have a good GEO strategy, generative engine optimization. There's a lot of terms flying around there. There's AEO, AIO, GEO, whatever the
Yeah.
acronym is. It's, I think foundationally, like there's a lot of things that are similar, but there are a lot of things that are different, right? When we look at like full brand visibility in a platform, it's not just about your own kind of content, right? Or like backlinks. It could be social sentiment, and it could be Reddit, strategy, right? Like, is your Reddit strategy is driving it positive or negatively from a sentiment standpoint? Could it be PR, right? Like, which is another big one. The PR industry is now kind of seeing a revive just from like a PR newswire or like these press releases because the LLMs now pick them up more frequently as a source. But like, I think at a foundational level, like for basic brand visibility, I think SEO is like kind of a core to that. But when you get into the intent-based, kind of what should I be watching tonight, or what kind of products should I be thinking about for my 3-year-old that is interested in X, Y, and Z, that's where it gets more complex, right? And so the strategy needs to evolve a little bit more than just what your typical SEO strategy will look like. And that's kind of the data that we've been looking at.
Right. Very interesting. I also have this sort of very high level idea. I may be wrong, so I want to confirm with you. What I've seen in the answers, the AI answers, is that they will base it a lot on things like Quora and Medium and Reddit and maybe social media and so on and so forth. Now, there may be brands which have never focused on such platforms before. So, do you think like they are at a disadvantage and they should start working on these things as well? And review sites as well. Like I've seen a lot of G2 and those kind of answers coming up.
Yes, and that's kind of what we have built the platform for. So, unlike other competitors that are in the space, which will give you a dashboard that shows you kind of here's what your brand visibility is. We actually have taken it a couple steps further, and we say, here are 10 things that you can fix. And the way that our technology is built is that we can kind of predict what that lift will look like. So we'll say, our metric that we use is share a prompt. And so it's share of voice, right? It's made up by a couple different things, but if we have a share of prompt score of 13% or something like that, I and we say, hey, looks like Reddit is like one of the driving forces for your brand visibility. Here's a very specific fix that you can do within Reddit, and we think that that will drive your share prompt percentage up by 3%. And then we have kind of like an operational workflow that allows us to track when that fix happens. And then we can kind of show that what the estimated lift was versus what the actualized lift is.
Right. Interesting. And I know you have started getting into that, but I like somebody listening about Emberos for the first time. How would you explain the company and the product to them?
Yeah. So we have basically created a platform that is, like I said, the operating system for AI visibility. And it's an agentic platform. So it's very simple to use. Some of our competitors like kind of drowned you in prompt data and noise. And so we have kind of taken the approach of it's already a confusing and kind of an unapproachable space. How do we simplify kind of the workflows that are needed to happen for you to increase your visibility? Our platform does everything from detecting, fixing, improving lift, but it also we're rolling out a shopping agent, so we can get down to the SKU level, and also kind of a nod to the agentic shopping era that we're about to go into. And then we also have like an AI governance and auditing tool, which will help with hallucinations, IP concerns, and even making sure if you have your own kind of agent that's representing your brand, that it's representing your brand correctly.
Oh, super interesting. So I think the geo part we have discussed a little bit, but you mentioned about agentic commerce and the other things about AI auditing and all that. I think it will be very interesting to go in a tad more detail about that. So I think it's very clear now that in the future agents will go and buy stuff for us. Maybe we'll start with 30% things, and then as you know how technology evolves, it may go to a very high percentage. And so the experience will look like you search something in ChatGPT, and they are working very hard with their ACP protocol and other things, so that the products actually start showing in line within ChatGPT. And the same thing is being done by Claude and others. And then there will be like merchants trying to build this stuff on their website and their app as well, where there's an AI agent which is helping people find the products. Because frankly, like the products today on any e-commerce website are like, okay, this is the fabric and this is the size and blah blah, this is for kids. But then people are actually, their intent is something like, I'm looking for stretchable, breathable pants for yoga, right? So there's a huge difference between what they're trying to find and the way the information is laid out. Where will like just to understand, like where are you planning to sort of? Is it a B2B offering to the companies, and how will they get there? Will they get? What is the offering here?
So we do B2B, but we also do B2C. So meaning if a retailer came to us, we would help them optimize their SKU level data so it shows up to the right consumers within the AI assistants and LLMs. if you are a jewelry designer and you have very specific jewelry SKUs, you will help you optimize to the right kind of prompt level asking for those types of products, and that's how we'll optimize to it. That's step one. I would say step two is going to be this like larger agentic commerce, which is like you have your own personal agent and it negotiates with the merchant directly, and that's how the transaction happens, which is very like future state, maybe not as future state as I think it is, but that's kind of like where everyone is thinking the world is going to be heading, where everyone's going to have their own personal agent and they'll negotiate on your behalf. Now, I don't know if the world is ready to be handing over credit card details to this invisible AI agent, but and to be negotiating on behalf of you for like those types of products, right? But I think the first step that we're all going to be embarking on is making those purchases within the LLMs. And that is obviously a clear kind of shift that's been happening. I think actually today I got a news alert. I haven't read the article yet, but it was I think it was the Economist that was saying like shopping has taken over, right? So I think we saw a lot of interesting stats coming out of Black Friday and Cyber Monday just around the usage of it. And by this time next year, it's going to be very mainstream.
Right. Yeah, agentic commerce is very, very interesting. So I think just from a builder perspective, since there's a lot of founders and technical folks which are listening to this, also want to understand like how do you sort of how do you build the technology for this, and is there like a technology moat here? In the SEO world, we saw that basically like there were millions of agencies, right, and people and individuals who came up who could do SEO for you. But this seems to be, far more technical than just doing like SEO in the previous era, right? So I want to understand like what is the technical moat here?
Yes. So there's a lot of companies that are coming out right now, and I think we'll see even more next year. And the SEO industry as a whole will start to see more of a pivot. And I think we're already seeing that, right? Like big SEO companies now offering GEO type expertise, rebranding it as kind of SEO 2.0. It's not my opinion, but like it's I think there's going to be a lot of offerings in the space, right? For us, we decided, like I said earlier, it's a different space, right? And I think for us, we wanted to build a foundation that really allowed us to create a more approachable, simplified, demystified platform. And at the foundation of that was building a brand knowledge graph. And so our brand knowledge graph, we map over a entity that could be a brand, a product, a politician, and we basically can then track that over time of what are the biggest influencing factors that the internet has in terms of AI visibility. And so that is pretty much our technical moat. There's a lot more that goes into that, right, without sharing our secret sauce. But at our core, that allows us to have predictive capabilities, and that's very different than how a typical like SEO would operate, right, or even like a typical GEO company would operate. We're kind of labeling this as like a AI brand orchestration era. So a little bit different than the rest of the pack. And for us, it requires a lot of data science, a lot of engineering power to basically build our moat that will unlock a lot of different really cool and unique capabilities that we can bring to market that are not just a repurposed version of SEO.
Oh, that sounds really interesting. And how big is the team? And how are you putting fuel into this rocket ship?
Yes. So the team right now is, I believe, as of today, 12, maybe. Yeah, I think 12. I think we're going to be scaling out to 15 by the start of the year. We're lucky enough to have an angel investor, and we've been moving at the speed of light. We started this in August, and we had MVP last week, and we got 3 clients in the first week, big clients. So you can just see the opportunity there, and like I think we're approaching it so much more differently than what that we're used to. Like I think anyone that's familiar with the GEO space is like, here's a bunch of optimizations, have at it, and good luck, right? And so we're saying, here's 5 optimizations you can make that we can confidently say will increase your brand visibility. A very different approach. It's somewhat closed loop. And, in terms of funding, I think we're going to have quite a good amount of ARR, and we'll be planning to head to seed probably at the end of Q1.
Okay. How much money did you raise in the pre-seed round?
1.2 million.
Okay, great. So this looks great. Like you already have customers, you are moving towards a bigger ARR. I think it will be also very interesting to know that what are the customer segments are they like specific industries or verticals that you're focusing on, or it's like everything is a fair play?
See, if you asked me this a week ago, I would have said we're going to start with media entertainment. But we have been lucky enough to like already diversify with like kind of what our pipeline looks like, and for a mixture between agencies and Fortune 500 companies, really cool like DTC brands that we're talking to. This is all within 1 week. It's been a wild ride thus far, and we're just getting started. And the reason why I said media entertainment is actually something I did want to bring up on this is we wanted to make sure things worked, right? Like we have this predictive capability, and no one has publicly came out and said brand visibility within AI matters. So what we did is for the past month, we have started to use our model and our AI visibility kind of metrics, share prompt, etc. And we decided to predict box office revenue. And so we did it for 4 titles over 3 weekends. The last 2 were Wicked for Good and Zootopia 2. And across those 4 titles, we saw anywhere from a 90 to 98% accuracy in terms of office revenue. And that is a very noisy space. And for a couple of those titles, we were 2x more accurate than traditional tracking metrics. And the biggest piece of this was we didn't look at any search, no social, no NRG, no traditional tracking metrics. We only looked at our AI signals and our model, and we were able to predict box office revenue to that level of accuracy. And it's like, I'm not trying to be a box office prediction company, right? But like we published the very first time-stamped case study that said, okay, AI visibility actually matters, right? Like we should be thinking about it this way because we are now proving that, it is a leading indicator for actual business outcomes or real world outcomes. And box office was just the start. We will replicate that across gaming, retail, etc. And that's kind of like what the original plan is. And I think it will shift a little bit in terms of like the types of clients we bring in. But in general, like we plan on proving it out across every one of our major verticals next year. So we can put a stake in the ground and say, no more of this, like, does it actually matter, right? Like we actually are proving it to everyone in the world that this is something that everyone needs to be thinking about and optimizing towards.
Right. And this is super interesting. By the way, I would love to go and read that study. Is it like for the audience, is it available on your website or?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Emberos.ai, and you'll see kind of a banner on the top that says Wicked for Good case study. And you can go into, and we have a full case study that you can download and the methodology as well.
So even though there was a lot of focus on entertainment industry, now you are thinking about going into other verticals as well. You are serving agencies, and that's like quite recent as well, right? So it's super interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. And then what is the business model? Like, how do you make money? How do you charge your customers?
We charge them by the agent. So we have 5 different agents. They all have kind of a different feature and function. And each one of those agents has a level of sophistication underneath it. So there's a light, a pro, and an enterprise tier. And then we charge by the amount of competitor tracking and also prompt volume. And then we'll be doing kind of like tentpole pricing. So if you have a large movie that you want us to help with tracking, we can do that, or a gaming launch, or a product launch or something like that as we continue to build this out. Or like, let's just say you have a pop-ups around, certain cities. We can help kind of do a campaign-based like tracking for that and optimization for that. So there's a lot of different ways to make money. Almost too many ways, right? So we're trying to simplify it in terms of just tiers, but it's each customer that comes to our platform is going to have very specific needs, right? What a retailer wants versus what a gamer a gaming company wants versus what a studio wants are very different, right? And they're going to be using our platform very differently. So we try to create a pricing model that can be somewhat customizable, a la carte, if you will, so we can meet the needs of our customers.
Right. And, I think for entrepreneurs, most of us actually know that the journey is hard. A lot of odds are stacked against you, fires are burning, right? And what has been like the hardest part for you building out in this category so far?
For me, there's a lot of things, right? I think like just in terms of like self-reflection, like I doubt like am I building the right thing? Like are people going to want it? That was definitely like I would say a phase I went through. And then you get a lot of noise just around the AI bubble, like what happens if I build this thing and this thing pops? Like, how does that work? And I just kept on going back to there's a need here in the space. Like CMOs and brands need this today. Or they're going to be shut out of the conversation. And so like I kept on grounding it into like that core business principle of we're solving an actual real world problem, which helped me kind of get through some of those like self-doubt moments. And you learn to try to just ignore a lot of the noise, right? The best kind of thing that I've done is I've been lucky enough to like have a network of other entrepreneurs that have been through this process, and I pick their brains all the time. Probably too much. They're probably very annoying to them. But like it's a very lonely space if you don't have a network to lean on, and so for me, I've been lucky enough to have a lot of advisors to help along the way, and I'm super grateful I have that. I understand that not everyone does, but if anyone's listening, I'm more than happy to chat with anyone about my journey and give you any pointers. But, I think it's there your network, and like you just have to like be confident in yourself and try to find ways to bring it back to that confidence level so you can continue on with like what you're trying to do.
Right. I often joke about this that it's almost like a sinusoidal curve. Like there are days when you feel like we will, conquer the world. And then there are days where it feels like you doubt everything.
Yeah,
So you have to just learn to manage that curve, I guess.
it's totally true. It's totally true.
Yeah. So this is great. I think enough on the business side and all that. I want to also talk about, you as an entrepreneur and the personal side. I think when we were going a little back and forth over email about, some of the stuff that you have done in the past on the personal side, there was this whole thing around flipping homes, which came up, right? So I think it'll be great to know how has, what has flipping homes with your wife taught you about teamwork and decision making?
That I'm not the boss in the household. That's usually the right answer. Hopefully she's not listening to this, but I would say that requires a lot of patience. And in many ways, it can be applied to what you're going to embark as a founder, right? We've had houses that were seamless, that were easy, 3 months in and out. And we've had houses that literally everything in the entire world that could happen happened to us. And I think for us, and similar to that same core principle that we just talked about, it was like self-doubt, right? Like how do you kind of ground yourself and just continue to move forward? And thankfully I had, we have each other as a good support system. We're in it together, right? But a lot of kind of good lessons learned from that world. Obviously, it's a very challenging time right now to be doing that. So we've had to take a little bit of a break, but also super fun. And it reminds me a lot of what I'm doing right now because it feels tangible, right? I like building, and so I like seeing kind of the fruits of my labor, and the same thing the same feeling that I was getting when I would see kind of the finished product is the same feeling I'm getting now when like we hit MVP, and like there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went into it, and there's a sense of pride, right, that you have when something feels tangible like that. So that's something that super like, drives me. Yeah.
Yeah, I have personally also found it very interesting that when you are doing things outside of tech, because like tech people like us, we are always thinking about, okay, what will AI do next, and what's happening to XYZ areas. But then any experience outside of all this, especially in the physical world, doing some side projects or, like in your case, flipping homes, teaches you so much about company building and team building and so on. I find it super interesting that kind of things we can learn, from the rest of the physical world, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally true. It's like, if you're a founder and you're listening to this, you better find another, like, find a hobby that you can, like, channel some energy, because it's living, breathing is a requirement, but like of the company. But it's nice to take a step back every now and then and focus on something that's different, even if it's just for a short period of time, because I think it also gives you, like, kind of a new perspective on things, right, that you're building. And yeah, that's a very good, like, tidbit that someone told me, and I really take that to heart.
Right. And like, truth be told, entrepreneurship is not easy. There's a lot of sleepless nights. Things are hard sometimes. And I wanted to ask you, like, not necessarily like you always have sleepless nights, but what keeps you up at night? Like, what is the biggest challenge right now in the business?
For me, the biggest challenge is the delicate balance of resourcing and burn rate. Like, how do I make sure I'm competitive, but not overbuilding? Making sure that I'm building for what the market wants, not what I want, right? And my world is so data science heavy. If I could, I would hire 50 of them tomorrow, just because I feel like that skill set is so needed in my world. But like, like, you can't do that. So it's a delicate, like, teeter totter that you're playing with these, like, with the resourcing and burn rate, that, it's been a little challenging to, like, think about. I don't know if it necessarily keeps me up at night, but it's definitely a top of mind for me. And also, like, the fundraising piece, like, uh, managing the VCs is like a full-time job. Understanding, like, who the right partner is, and who can kind of take you to that next level, is super critical too. It's kind of like dating. You're gonna be basically, potentially marrying this individual, so, like, you want to make sure you like them from a personal standpoint as well. And it's not just about the money. So yeah, there's and just like, I think for me also, I have two young kids at home. How do I balance uh, the demands of building a SaaS company in an AI era, that moves at the speed of light, that will have undeniably, like, massive client requests and customizations and things like that, and also have time for my family. So, I think that's also something I would say that keeps me up at night.
Yeah, very important. Very well said. I would like to finish this by just asking you one final question, that there may be people from brands listening to this podcast, and, with your sort of your and your team experience in multi-agent systems, large scale pipelines, prediction engines, and, the way that you're building this AI visibility OS. Any company or any brand or brand person listening to this, how should they prepare for this whole sort of AI answers word? And what would you tell them to do? Like, just like, start like reading this or listening to that podcast or reading this book, or what should they start sort of going through in terms of content?
I mean, besides coming to me and using my platform,
Yes. That may be the best place to go to.
I
We
think
all agree.
the best starting part is going to Emberos, AI, and clicking on book a demo. No, I'm kidding. I would say we're in the first inning. And so, like, if anyone says that they've got it all figured out right now, maybe they do, but I think they're probably lying a little bit, because the space changes so much, right? So don't feel like you're left behind, but it is now the time is to up your game, up your chops, understand kind of what the next iteration of measurement is going to look like, and 2026 is going to happen. So if you want to be the best marketer or advertiser, or make sure you get the most amount of sales for your brand, this is a space that you need to be thinking about. And I can confidently say, if you're not, you will be shut out of the conversation. So I would say, do your research. There's a lot of conflicting opinions out there, but, like, the more you read, the more you understand differing opinions of these things, the better off you are of kind of forming your own opinion. And that's kind of the strategy that you should go down. I think next year there's going to be a spotlight on this industry. It's already a very, very hot space. I think that there'll be kind of the clear winners of the space that will probably have a lot of published best practices and ways to approach this for very specific verticals. So I would say keep your eyes out for that. We certainly will be one of the ones that will be doing those types of things too. And yeah, I would start small and start to understand kind of what you're kind of where you're at, where your baseline is, and that's where you work up from. Uh, yeah.
Yeah. No, this is great. It's been wonderful talking to you, Justin. I personally learned a lot. I'm sure the audience will enjoy this when this pod comes out. Thank you so much for your time. And, looking forward to chatting with you about AEO in 2026 as well.
Sounds good. Me too.